Yo, yo, yo. We are back again. Same result,
Same
but
results.
we got something maybe that's going to brighten our days a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Special guest with
welcome
us
to
today.
Brown and Orange Weekly. As always, with me, I'm Clarence, as y'all know, and with me, as always, is the man, that guy, that dude, Dean Samples. Dean.
How you doing? We're joined by a special guest today.
That's right. I was trying to come up with superlatives for him. I've been listening to the guy for years. We just gonna call him Mr. Fantastic. Matt Fontana in the building with us today. Matt, what's up, brother?
What's up, guys? I've been caught a lot worse, so I appreciate that. That works well for me. So that sounds fantastic. Thanks.
Anybody that doesn't know, and I don't know how you couldn't if you follow the Browns, Matt Fontana is the host of ECT, ESPN Cleveland Tonight on 850 WKNR, ESPN Cleveland. He is also the co-host of the Daily Grossy on the Land on Demand. I've got questions, man. Well, we're gonna get into that because
Good.
you being with the General 100 Years War, I got questions, man.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you got some stories with that.
Oh, don't
Yes,
I? You know I do. Yeah.
yes. I guess we just jump right into it, man.
Yeah,
Browns,
man.
after a lot of maneuvering around this week, moving the game from Buffalo to Detroit due to the weather,
Buffalo got wrecked with snow.
wrecked,
Mhm.
I
wrecked.
was, I was kind of hoping we
Uh,
could have a snowball game though.
yeah, I was thinking of that was going to level the playing field a little bit, but at last they moved the game to Detroit and the Browns lose 31-23. Um, it wasn't that close in my eyes. It seemed like they kind of hung around for a little bit, but um, there was one play and it seemed like it opened the floodgates, and we'll get into that. Uh, I guess initial thoughts, Matt. I mean,
Yeah. I
your
mean,
initial thoughts.
yeah. I mean, I think you're right on, Clarence. Like, it wasn't. It was a one-score game. It wasn't that way. It didn't play that way. The Browns they fought to the end, which I think is maybe a credit. There's a lot of questions about Kevin Stefanski right now. People are, listen, you have a team that's underachieving. He's the offensive play caller. I don't think the offense has been a big problem, but when you see games like today where Nick Chubb just was not effective, the offensive line. I mean, losing Ethan Posick the way that they did, he put Froholt in there. I mean, he was just getting dominated, but I think the rest of the offensive line, I don't think they played real well. So
Right.
you go from your strength, you're arguably your best group on the field at any point, and that becomes a weakness. So then you can't run the football. You turn Jacoby Brissett, trying to throw in again. I think there's just when you become a one-dimensional football team like that, anybody should be able to beat you. And there's just too many mistakes, too many special teams gaffes once again, defensively missed tackles again. I think overall, like Stephon Diggs, I mean, with the touchdown, I think he finished with what, like 60 odd some yards or something like that.
Yeah.
Normal, yeah.
48.
Oh, 48. Okay, even less than that. Right, right. So I mean, like you'd sit there and you say, okay, a touchdown, which isn't a good thing, right? But if I held Stephon Diggs to 48 yards, just like they did when they did Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you'd be like, all right, we're feeling pretty good about this game, right?
You would
But the
think.
problem is, what did they do? They said the same thing Miami did. We're going to run the football on you just like the Chargers did. And it just is apparent they have real issues on the defensive tackle front, for the Browns. But, I think it's, you know, depending on where people were at, it was either this game was going to be for the season or it was already over. So I don't know many people that are holding on to a lot of faith right now that they can get it turned around, which kind of sucks, Watson getting back in the building. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but it kind of sucks that you're here and the rest of the season just kind of plays out at this point.
Right. Like we were talking last week, how much of a difference is Deshaun coming back really going to make this team? And we're playing as bad as we are on all sides of the ball. It's it's kind of
He ain't
hard.
gonna
I
fix
mean,
it, right? He ain't gonna fix the defense. It's
no,
like that's the tough thing. Yeah,
right. It's like they cannot stop the run. These teams, what that usually run with a running back committee, are just coming in and just running all over us, and it's
mm-hmm.
I
I
don't know what
think
it is, man.
Cook today, he had a total of what was it, 86 yards um, on 11 carries, and I think I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that was his season high, if not his career high, and I believe a lot of that came in the first half. I just don't
Yeah,
the 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 motto that I've been yelling for the last couple of weeks is if a team wants to run the ball against the Cleveland Browns, no matter who they are, they're going to run the ball against the Browns. We
Yeah.
can't stop it.
Yeah, and I think it's, the biggest issue with, I think, when you start looking at this team, and this is something that I've talked about too, is like, we're trying to pull positives out of it. It's been a rough season. Well, Andrew Berry probably goes into this offseason now with some questions and maybe some positions he thought were pretty shored up, right? Like, and I don't like doing this, I don't like naming names, but is Grant Delpit really the all-pro safety that you thought he was? Again, rhetorical question. Maybe I'm not, we're not maybe here to answer that. I would say a lot of people probably right now are saying he might not be. So, okay, so now you have a question there. Then you start talking about, okay, that Jordan Elliott, even a former draft pick, he's not getting it done. Tommy Togiai, third round pick. Like, they're just not. So now priority for this offseason. So now that you do have Deshaun Watson in the building, he's going to be here for years to come. Now it's even more imperative that Andrew Berry goes out and I don't say there's many, but there's still just some glaring issues on this team, specifically on defense. You got to just shore those up. I think it's linebacker and defensive tackle. Again, losing Anthony Walker, I think, has been a bigger blow than we all kind of realize at this point. I like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think he can make plays. He's kind of built for the one part of the game is getting out there in space and making tackles. But I think if I'm Andrew Berry, I'm spending the few draft picks I do have, because the other thing too, you have to replace Jadeveon Clowney. I doubt very much he's coming back. So you're going to need another edge rusher. You're going to need another D tackle. You're going to need more linebackers. You're probably losing Greedy Williams. I don't see a world John Johnson is back. Even just save that money. It's a lot. There's just a list thing. Like, right, that's the tough part about watching a game like today is you get out of it and you really sit there and you go, man, we got bigger issues than we thought.
Yeah, and that's a question I got, Matt. Like, I know for me, I wrote an article right after the 53-man roster was announced, and I saw in the middle of the defensive line with the defensive tackle spots and the linebacker spot. So I guess and this is a question for both of you guys. Do you think they just straight up overvalued their talent, or did they just say, you know what, we're going to coach these guys up and these guys are going to play? Because me, as an outsider, just as a fan, if I can see that we're a little bit deficient or just a lack of experience at those positions, why didn't the front office see these things and, go to make moves?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I saw an interesting thread that I think it was Matt Miller, who was a draft, scout type guy, and Albert Breer jumped into, and there were a couple other draft people that just kind of said the trend in the NFL over the past decade were lighter, quicker, faster D tackles, kind of a la Aaron Donald. Everybody was searching for that, right? He plays like he's 350 pounds, but I don't believe he is 300 pounds. So this lighter, quicker thing. And then you realize that teams just get throttled when it comes to running the football. When you see guys like Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph still getting signed to deals, of plus 30 to go be run stoppers. And then you look at the draft last year where, like, Jordan Davis comes out of Georgia. You see some of these bigger guys. We saw one of them today at Oliver. You see guys that are just like pure. I go back to like, they can really use the Taba Rubin on this team right now. They could really use Phil Taylor, back on this team. And it was just, I think it was just the trend in the NFL that they jumped on board with that. They thought they could make it work, but it's it's been a bust. I think it's just really been a bust in the NFL. So hopefully everything comes full circle, right? I think they'll be back to a little bit of a heavier set there.
Okay. I'm hoping so, man. And like seeing what Sue signed for going to Philly, he basically went there for nothing. And it's kind of like, man, could we have had an opportunity to grab him?
I'm with you, Dean. Like, I hope they called, but also he was a free agent. He could go wherever he wanted to, and he was probably sitting there saying, "Hey, I got to look at maybe go winning a Super Bowl here."
Right.
Versus, Cleveland, which I get, if he was a younger guy or longer term deal, but, that's the Andrew Berry specialty, right? That's another position too for maybe this year coming up. The veteran 1-year deals. He loves those. He loves handing them out. Taven Bryan's a guy that, hey, bring him in here, see what he's got. I'd like him to resign Taven Bryan. It's got to make sense, but yeah.
I would like to bring him back as well.
Yeah,
I did like the trade for Deion Jones. I think that was a good. We kind of didn't know that the true leader of our defense prior to that, and from what I've understood, he's kind of taken that role and kind of.
I think Yeah, and I think that goes back to like with A-Walk being down, and I will say Anthony Walker's been back in the building now for a couple of weeks after he had to go out and get surgery and everything, so he's still around. But it's helpful to have somebody in there. Like there was the TV broadcast mentioned that Jones got the guys together for a dinner, or they went out and they're starting to watch film more often, together. So I think that's something they sorely needed.
They definitely did.
Definitely. Did you now? You brought up Grant Delpit. I was scrolling the old Twitter about an hour before this show, and he had an interesting quote. They were asking him about the run defense, and he said something to the effect. This is not verbatim, but he said something to the effect of, "You got to know what you're doing more or less to be able to stop the run defense or stop the run." How are we in week 10 and these guys don't know where the hell they're at or what they're doing? That blows my mind.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and especially like when you look at what Joe Woods has talked about, right? Like Joe Woods has mentioned, I can't do my full playbook yet, right? And that's something too that he mentioned us earlier. And we go, wait a minute, you have all your same coaches back, you have the vast majority of your players back. How are you not into everything that you want to be into? And then he kind of mentioned that he felt like he overloaded the guys, and that was the issue that they were having with miscommunications or not playing fast or whatever the case may be, right? So now it's like I can't tell. Like every single week, I think we get another excuse of why the defense doesn't play well, right? It was the missed tackling. Okay, then Joe Woods said, okay, I put too much on their plate. Then they kind of fixed that, but then the run defense kind of went away. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? What's going on with this? Like, I don't know exactly what it is. I do at times maybe question the structure of the defense, the players, the body types, all that kind of stuff that goes to it. But at the end of the day, it's like it's an unfortunate thing where I like Joe Woods. I've admitted on my show, like I'm a bit of an apologist. Guys, I don't know a way he keeps his job. I really don't. Like, and that's not me sitting here calling for it. I really wish it wouldn't be that way because I think he actually is a really good defensive coordinator, but something ain't working. And I don't know what it is. And that's the problem is I don't even know if there's enough time for them to get it figured out because even if, the rest of the way you have 7 games to go, even if the defense played lights out, people are not going to forget what has gotten you to this point. Like I feel like we're past the point of no return. So to your point, Clarence, about what Delpit had to say, it's like I thought they like pared it down too all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So if you're still having these issues and you're all the way down here on the playbook, then yeah, you're out of excuses. Like I don't know, you're out of excuses in my book.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing the excuses and Stefanski coming on just saying we got to play better. I know our team got to play better. We got to coach better, and it's like I don't know. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but at this point, I'm like kind of questioning all aspects. Like, is Stefanski our guy? Like not throwing the red flag today on 2 multiple occasions with Harrison Bryant. I would have threw the flag myself if I was in that situation. Then that 2-point conversion, I think. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that 2-point conversion with Cooper, it barely looked like he stepped out on that line. I mean, I would at least threw the flag and gave it an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean that was tough because, like I said, I think he got the chalk. It was on turf, but that one was, and that goes back to the inches in the game. That goes back to like the little things that this team just doesn't seem to. And that's not. Listen, Amari Cooper has been a real pleasant surprise. I'm not even surprised, but I think he's exceeded expectations. Mm-hmm. Play like that, like it's kind of like he'll run that play 10 times, 9 out of 10 times he makes that catch, he's in bounds. That was just kind of the one. But I'm with you. I see where you're going, Dean. Like you have nothing to lose at that point. You try to just hope and go for it. But I know people are upset about his going forward on 2 and all that. And I just there's a lot of people that get upset with the analytic version of all that kind of stuff. So
I mean, I got to give Stefanski credit. I mean, I think he's a good coach. He's a good play caller. But when it comes to like critical situations, I still feel like he's kind of learning on the fly how to manage those situations as a head coach.
Sure, and I do think there's that point of like when people are asking about him like to give up play calling, right? They're like, well, he could focus solely on, just doing the head coach type stuff. And I was like, I get it, but also to your point, I think he has learned a lot. I think he's a lot better. It's like, are you ready to flush that away now that actually he's getting to a good point? Like, I don't know. It's a tough one for sure.
And these next 7 games are winnable. But
Come on, man.
I don't know, like I do want to kind of see what Alex Van Pelt can do calling the plays. I mean, I do just kind of want to see what he can do. But we're not totally out of the playoff hunt. A lot of things need to fall in our play for that to happen. Like I said, these last 7 games are very winnable. I don't know.
I think the only tough thing on that is going to be is you're going to want Stefanski and Watson to get as many, in-game reps and stuff like that because, there is that element of the 7 games where people are going to read into these 7 games and they're going to decide, I don't want to say decide on Stefanski, but you want to see the good play calling. You want Stefanski to get some of the stuff figured out. So there is that little element to it as well.
Right.
Oh, I got a quick question.
Okay.
Sorry, Dan. I got a quick question because you brought up something that was interesting to me, and this is going back to Woods. I heard on RBS, I think it was Friday, either Thursday or Friday, Riz say something to the effect of, maybe he's heard that Woods does not have the people that he wants in here, I guess, to be able to run his defense. And that, everything is kind of a collaborative effort, the way that they do things in the front office. I mean, do you think that maybe there is just too much of like the front office saying, all right, we're going to give you these guys and you're going to make it work, and it's not really collaborative effort?
Because like the scary thing on that was this really whole 2 past off seasons was defense, right? Newsome, JOK, you signed Clowney, last off season, Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell, who you could certainly use back, right? This off season, MJ Emerson, you got Taven Bryan, all that stuff. So I hope, because they went out, they spent on the defense, to that point, I think you talk to most coaches, what do they say? Hey, I need to get the best out of the players that I have. And maybe they're not exactly what I'm looking for. Maybe they're not the exact fit of what I need, but you got to make do with what you got, and again, if it's as simple as the D tackles are too light and they're not exactly what it is, then, I again, that's probably my defense coordinator. I don't know, find a way to fix that. I don't know, but run a 50-man front. I don't know. You run 2 linebackers half the time anyway. I think I really do. I don't want to say I subscribe to this, but it's a conversation I've had with people where, any offense, any scheme, offense or defense, they're predicated on your best player usually, right? Browns offense meant to run through Nick Chubb. When he's not right, see today's game is probably a prime example. When he's not right, when they can't run the football, they're not good. The Browns defense is 1,000% predicated on Myles Garrett getting to the quarterback. That's why they run some of the coverages that they run. That's why they like to do some things where they just assume that 3 seconds into the quarterback dropping back, he's either going to be throwing it away or Myles has him on the ground. And the same thing where, how does Myles Garrett fix the run defense? Well, he doesn't really, right? He doesn't play inside. He's not the run stopper. So that's why I wonder, was this team so built to stop the pass, so built to stop the likes of Lamar Jackson, which they normally do, stop Joe Burrow, which they normally do, stop the worlds of Justin Herberts and stop your Tyreek Hills and your Jalen Waddles, but then they forget to stop the run. Maybe that's it. And if that's the problem, then yeah, I would say you'd probably blame Joe Woods for that, for being so one heavy on one side, but it is today's NFL.
It's a good way to look at it. I never really looked at it in that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Chubb couldn't get it going today. 14 carries for 19 yards. Kareem Hunt was our leading rusher with 5 attempts for 32 yards. Even Jacoby Brissett outrushed Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
He had 7 rushes for 29 yards. But in the passing game, Cooper did good. 8 receptions, 113 yards, 2 TDs. DPJ in his hometown had a good game as well, which I love to see. I think DPJ's been having a great year.
Yeah.
He's coming to be the second wide receiver that we wanted him to be, and dude's been catching everything. I'm completely impressed with him so far this season.
I am too. I think he's, he and Cooper are a little bit of a different way too. They're bigger bodied guys, which I'm always a fan of. Like, yeah, you need a slot guy here and there, but right. Give me your big 6-foot+ guys, which they're both are. They're both physical off the line. They can both move, which is great. And I think that's the positive thing too, is like, I know this season's not been the way you want to go, but I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has played himself in maybe even to a point where, you're talking contract situation eventually where he might go out and get some money. But like, Deshaun Watson's coming back with 3 bona fide targets, right? With Njoku, with DPJ, and with Amari Cooper. Like, that's definitely a positive. I think his step forward this year has actually been one of the few bright spots. Definitely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on Jedrick Willis this year? I have to ask. He's been getting a lot of hate about his lack of.
I do. Well, okay, I'm gonna put it this way, and this is like just watching. I do think no matter what, unfortunately, he's cost himself some money. So this offseason obviously is critical because they have to pick up his 5th-year option going into year 4, and they can begin to discuss a long-term contract. I believe, and I truly believe that he's been fighting another injury this year. He's had ankle injuries, it seems like, every year he's been here, and it's just an unfortunate thing. And, especially when it's specifically one area, when they start and they don't stop, and it just kind of keeps going. And especially for an offensive lineman, especially as a tackle, that the kick step's so important, your footwork's so important. Now, that's not an excuse, right? He's out there playing. They're putting him out there. He must be healthy enough to play. So he's out there. The thing is, and this is, again, a question for Andrew Berry, with, your cap space situation, with your kind of lack of draft picks, can you go out and find another left tackle? Because you don't want to bring Deshaun Watson into a situation while having a franchise left tackle.
Right.
And I look at it, and you would say, left tackle is one of those positions, a premier position in football, right? But when you start looking around the league, you've got first-round picks, right? Like, you can look and say, okay, here's, Tyron Smith. Okay, here's, Joe Thomas to a point one day. Or you look at Orlando Brown, because Kansas City's on tonight, all that kind of stuff. You look at, Ronnie Stanley. Okay, great. But then I could look at it and say, okay, well, where did the Packers find David Bakhtiari, right? Where did a lot of these teams can find left tackles? I mean, a historical version would be Jason Peters, right? The 7th-round pick, got cut by the bill. Look at him now. He might be All of Famer. So, like, you might be able to go find one of those guys later. Is James Hudson your answer? I think James Hudson has always been groomed to be the guy to take over Jack Conklin at right tackle. So I had somebody kind of make the case that you flip those guys back because, Jed Wills was a right tackle in college. I don't know if I see that, and I don't think they'd pick up a 5th-year option on him to go and flip him back. But my biggest question, and the same thing always when people are like, I'll fire this guy or cut this guy. It's like, that's fine. I'll listen, but who can you get in there? And that's the question for Andrew Berry, right? Can you go out and find a replacement level guy that's better than Jed Wills? Do you have money to sign him? Free agent, a lot of times free agent franchise left tackles very rarely hit free agency, right? You got to be traded for, or you don't leave the team that drafts you. So I don't know. Again, it's like, I think Jed's battling. I think he's, again, I really believe he's battling an injury. But, I think he's fine just because if a better option is out there, sure, but I just don't know if there is one. I had somebody bring up Garrett Bowles because he got his 5th-year option declined from Denver. And I was like, at that point, because he's also battled injuries, also a guy that had his, again, for clear reasons, had his 5th-year option declined. So I was like, at that point, I'd probably just stay with Jed Wills, but we'll see.
Do you, and this is something that's come along, kind of as the season has gone along, and you brought up, AB, possibly being able to go out and find somebody. Mm-hmm. What's your faith level in him being able to find somebody? I feel like there's been, the Cooper deal, two fives for this dude, and he's by far our best receiver.
Sure.
But some of the drafting and I guess some of the other personnel moves have kind of shaken my confidence a little bit in him. I mean, do you feel like he's not the guy, but do you feel like they are capable of finding the right players and using a mixture of analytics and what you see on the field? Because I feel almost that they're putting so much towards analytics that just the old time football gut is not playing a part in making decisions.
Yeah, and I think the problem is when you look at a lot of his free agent signings, there's probably more, to a point, more bad than good. Austin Hooper was a bust, not even here. I think Jack Conklin's been great. You know, he made it all pro. It's all he really asked for. Just battled injuries. Okay. John Johnson doesn't seem like it's really working out really all that well. You know, I like Anthony Walker. I do. But okay, you know, he was obviously hurt, and when he was playing, I wouldn't say he's a premier linebacker. Um, Jadeveon Clowney doesn't seem to be working out all that well. You know, again, when he's on the field, it's great. And I thought he had a real career resurgence. I thought signing him at the time was great, but that obviously hasn't played out. Taven Bryan's been fine, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think when you look at specifically the free agents, right? He's made some good trades. He certainly made some smart signings. You know, Garrett extension, Denzel extension, all that kind of stuff. How maybe he handled the Kareem. You know, that's another one too, because I had somebody bring this up to me about was it worth holding on to Kareem Hunt at this point? You know, because what would they have gotten, right? A 6th-round pick maybe or something like that. But you held him on for an extra 2 weeks that didn't turn your season around like you had hoped.
Right.
He's still not getting used, you know, the way that you thought. So I think that, yeah, I mean, that was a tough one too. So, and obviously it's not his decision on how much Kareem plays or not, but it seems to be like, well, he missed an opportunity there. So, you know, I get where you're going, Clarence, because it's like you want to have a lot of faith that he can go out and find, you know, diamonds in the rough or find, you know, whoever it might be. But at the end of the day, like most free agents, it's the money that talks, right? Nobody's really going to give up that much cash to join the Cleveland Browns. Now, with Deshaun Watson coming back, you try to turn yourself into that destination. But any free agent outside of, let me put it this way, the free agents that you really want to go get, right? The guys that just got done with their rookie contract, which again is rare because if they're really good, they're probably re-signed and ready to go. But there are cap casualties out there. Sure. Those guys want to get paid, right? The best that you can do with a hometown discount or getting a team that, you know, getting a guy to take a discount to go win a Super Bowl is guys like we just talked about. Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh are plus 30. They're only going to sign a 1-year deal. What they make, it was $2 million total, I think, 750 base, a bunch of incentive money, you know, for them to come in and play 8 games. So that's pretty much it. Where I think a lot of people, myself included, want that more permanent fix, right?
Yes.
You're going to have, you need another pass rusher to go with Myles Garrett. And the sad thing is, I've been saying that since Myles Garrett got drafted in 2017. They've never once found that running mate with him, you know, and you look across the league and you see, all right, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, right? Even I was watching the Steelers today. You got Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. You've got 2 guys that always can seem to go after it. And I think they wanted it to be Clowney, but just knowing that the answer was never a long-term solution.
Right.
And then now, you know, with the lack of draft picks, it's going to have to be in the free agents there.
I was really excited about Perion Winfrey when he got drafted. I thought he was going to come in here and just be a dog, and it's not panned out. We probably won't find out what's going on. They're probably going to keep that in-house. He's been healthy scratches numerous times throughout the season.
Yeah.
That draft pick's looking like it's not panning out. It's upsetting to me, but
yeah, and I think the thing that when I've talked to people about Perion, or when I've you know tried to also get to the bottom of it, it's a lot within himself, you know, and I think there's a positive to be said. Number one, I don't think the team has given up on him yet, because I don't think he'd be here if he was. So there's still a window for him to become a contributing guy on this team and a player. Don't know if it's this season. And I'll just put it this way: from everything that I've heard, it's a lot that has to do with Perion himself, and if he wants to do the things that I'm sure he levels, certainly, yeah. I mean, I think there's like anything when you become a professional football player, it's a little bit different than things you've done in the past, and you know, in college and all that kind of stuff, and they want to give him the opportunities to try to show that he can, but it's we'll see. I think this will be a really crucial offseason for him, you know, to restore some faith with the Browns.
it'd be nice to have a veteran on that line that kind of take him under his wing and kind of guide him in that right direction. I feel like he needs it. And I feel like that's huge that we bring in more veterans to kind of bolster that defense, to be that we need that presence, and it's clearly lacking.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough thing is you sit there today and you wonder about, you know, just the defense and, you know, totality. You're right. There's not a lot of veteran guys. And I think there's a difference between guys that have just been in the league for a long time versus guys that have played at a high level, that have been on winning football teams. You know, again, it's not a shot at Taven Bryan, but how much winning did he do down in Jacksonville? He's been in the league, 5 years, I think, so it's like, it's more about getting that's why I really like the Malik Jackson signing they made last year. That guy spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. He knows what it's like. He's seen good football. He's seen bad football. The guy played a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So it's like, he can sit to these guys and sit there and say, I know what it takes. I know. I've been here. I've done it. This is what we got to do. And unfortunately, I don't think you have many of those guys on defense.
Another question for you. And this kind of goes to the Stefanski question and the analytic and everything like that. So today, they went for it 2 times they went for it in 3rd and 1 with the QB sneak. Didn't work out. So instead of kicking, it would have been like a 43-yard field goal or something like that, they go for it again. They don't get it. And I feel like that was the moment that pretty much the game was over because they went right down, scored again. Do you feel like there's just too much too much of the analytics going on and not enough of the football, kind of like what I was saying before, because it's just one of those things where I feel like in every game there is one call that Stefanski makes that has me scratching my head. Maybe it's just because I'm old and you take the damn points.
Sure. Yeah.
But it just feels like there's one call in just about every single game that I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is with the analytics is a lot of people hear that and they assume that there's some computer program that gets into Kevin Stefanski's ear and tells him what to do. From my understanding of it, there's a sheet, and there's this sheet that will tell you down situation, all that kind of stuff, and it'll tell you yay or no. And Alex Van Pelt mentioned it's talk about when the sheet tells us when it's green, that means go. It's time to go. And the analytics based on however many hundreds of football games that they tabulate and all this numbers and all that kind of stuff tell you have a better chance to win a football game when you convert on this down, when it's this distance, you have a good look at it, this kind of stuff. I mean, the anger with me is not getting 1 yard twice. You know what I mean? Right. Now, you want to talk about the decision to go for it in that situation. I'll listen to that to a point. I just understand that they're going to go for it, right? Like, it's kind of what they're going to do. But the problem is when you get stuffed on that first one, to not hand it to Nick Chubb, to not go off tackle, to not try to do something else. And I get that Jacoby Brissett's been a good sneaker, to this point of the season, which is good. I think the interesting thing will be the aggressiveness when Deshaun Watson returns, when he's got the wheels, and that's not a shot at Brissett, but he doesn't move as well as Watson does. Because on plays like that, when you need a yard, like I think about goal line. I love pitches. I love sweeps. I love RPOs. Not even RPOs, but just options of like stretch that defense, use your speed to get lateral and get up the field. And then the other thing too is the biggest issue that I think a lot of people have on it. They're right now, you're going up against your backup center when you have 2 all-pro, highly paid guards. Go behind one of them. Don't listen. Froholt tried his best out there. He getting ragdolled. Okay, he was getting ragdolled all over that field. Get behind Teller. Get behind Joel Batoni. Specifically, what I really like them to do: go behind Teller and Conklin. And I know it takes an extra split second for Brissett to go to his right and get behind those guys, but the analytics part of going for it, the actual decision, isn't what so bothered me on that. It was just the play call.
Yeah, I agree. It almost seems like they trust Brissett more than they do running Nick Chubb on those type of situations. You got one of the best running back in the league, and like half the time in those 3rd and 2 situations, they just don't utilize them.
Sure,
it's frustrating.
And they might say that there's more, with a moving, part of, turning, handling, handing the fumble, snap, all that other kind of stuff. You allow the defense that opportunity to get the penetration to make the stop, but they also, it seems like everybody knows that the sneak is coming. So when they know the sneak is coming, they're going to do what they did. They're going to either jump the pile or they're going to cut inside quick and get there. And it's going to be hard to get that yard.
We're pretty predictable.
Yeah, unfortunately, and then when they rush too, when that they're not even making a play call, what's coming. As soon as they're running up to the line, what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So
you got one positive from today's game to take away?
Yeah,
one positive. Dig deep in there.
As I said, we do flowers and beef on this show. People
sure.
get their flowers, for great performances or good things. and then we hand out our beef. A lot of times it's Szechuan, it's hot beef, or things that just don't go our way.
Sure.
Is there are you got some positives coming out of this at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one would be Amari Cooper. I mean,
Yeah.
he seems every bit of a number one receiver when he puts up the numbers that he does. I think the contested catches, he made two really, really hard catches today in that game. And people talk about him being, the precise route runner that he is, the speed, the physicality. Sure, those are really hard catches. So I would think that would be, number one. But it's also, I don't know if we needed it, but he had a slow stretch of games. I think somebody said he in the first quarter had more targets than he did the whole Miami game, right? So, and usually when you're thrown into him that much, it's tough because it means the run game isn't working so well. But that would definitely be one for me. I would say Amari Cooper.
Okay, Dean.
I was going with Mari too, and DPJ, kind of putting them together.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with JOK. Just his presence returning to the game today after being out with an injury. He made his presence felt. I think he's my defensive player of the game, even though defense did not play very well at all. But he let his presence be known today. So it was good to see him back. And then the fans traveling out,
always,
yeah,
going out in Detroit and holding it down. I know Buffalo. I think they said the Bills bought like 54,000 tickets or something crazy like that. I could be wrong with that number, but Bills fans are crazy with like us. But yeah, flowers to the fans. Just week in, week out, just going through it, man. We're still here.
I agree with all the flowers that you guys handed out for sure. That's everybody on my list. I did notice JOK early. It seemed like they almost had him spying Josh Allen for a little bit here and there, and I was like, and I noticed that early, and I was like, I like this game plan, and obviously it turned to doo-doo very shortly.
Yeah, I love JOK though, man. I'm glad he's back.
Yes. Beef. I have the same beef every week. It's just the defense. I'm so sick and tired of watching no name backs or teams that just can't run the ball. Just come in and decide that day they're going to run the ball. And it seemed like the Bills weren't doing it early, but I noticed a couple runs towards the end of the first half. They were able to gash us, and I was like, this is where it begins, right here. So it's always the defensive middle of the defensive line for me. Matt, you got any beef?
Yeah, I mean, it just special teams. The kickoff returns, the punt returns that are allowed. Bork has with a borderline shank again today, or that just a bad punt that allowed a good return. But and then Cade York, and I sent this tweet, and I was like, listen, I'm not here to make the decision on what Mike Prefer tells Cade York. Cade York's someone kicking the football. I get it. But it's become a trend, right? It's become an issue where these low line kicks are getting blocked, and whether it's penetration up the middle, where you need to rethink your blockers, I don't know. Whatever the issue is, I don't know. And Cade York is such a young kicker that I do have a legitimate fear that he's fallen into bad habits. And Can you shake these habits? Is this something that I was as hyped as anybody, right? Thinking this guy's our franchise guy and he's going to be here for 15 years kicking footballs and all that. And he's still a rookie, and I still want to allow for that growth. But what I don't want to have happen is him starting into bad habits where he's starting to get kicks blocked. Is that how he's going to change his attack angle? Is he going to start doing more shallow? Is lose distance? All these things. But I think some of the biggest things that I know a lot of people have an issue with is just the decision making, right? When are we kicking it deep on kickoffs? When are the punt returns coming? And then for the Browns themselves, they don't. I got a good text from my buddy today. He goes, because on the one punt that we were returning down to Peoples-Jones, we got a holding call. My buddy texted me, goes, why are we holding when we know we don't return punts anyway? Like, they know he's just going to fair catch it. Why are we even holding when you just know? Because there's nobody around Donovan, and he calls fair. I'm not yelling at Donovan. That's just what it is. But it's like, yeah, just little stuff like that. So I think, again, this week has just been my beef is can continue to be with the special teams units.
I'm going to piggyback with the special teams and the defense as well. Just, oh no, man, it's just sloppy play. The miscues, it's just week in and week out. It's frustrating. It's tough to see. I mean, I'm not saying Devin Singletary's a terrible running back. He's not, but he's not the greatest either. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's frustrating to watch week in and week out. I feel like on paper we're far way too talented on defense. I know we have our holes, but still we should be playing better than what we are, and it's just frustrating to watch. As a team, we are better than what our record shows and how we're performing. It's all in all, it's just been a frustrating season, man.
Next week, Tampa. We're gonna make our predictions, Matt. If you don't want to make your prediction, obviously you have other mediums.
You were
that
close
go
on your prediction, Matt, this week.
It was
Yeah,
close. Yeah.
34,
Unfortunately, I was,
24.
I was like, all right. Because and the Browns actually, because it was 23. So I was pretty close. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One more score here and there. I just never saw, I didn't see what did Tyler Bass hit? Like 6 field goals or something? I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I did not see that being a thing. But yeah, that was pretty insane. But yeah, I'll probably hold off on mine, honestly, because I usually kind of sit down and try to put a little thought into it from time to time. But so I'll tell you guys this spoiler. I unfortunately don't think the Browns pull out a victory on Sunday. So I think it might be a tough go.
King of positivity, Dean Samples. What are you thinking?
17-10.
Who?
Browns.
I knew
right.
it. I knew it. Well,
Gotta be
y'all
positive,
know me.
man. I'm trying here.
Y'all know me. I'm gonna give it to you how I feel. I feel like this is a winnable game. I don't feel like this is a juggernaut squad that we're seeing in Tampa Bay.
Buccaneers are not who they were last year at all.
No.
Your boys come with some positivity. I feel like we get this one. I don't know why. Maybe it's maybe it's the whiskey I drank last night. I don't know. Just, getting back to me. Browns win this one 24-17. I think this doesn't become a jump off point, but I think it gives us a little bit of good vibes going into the Deshaun Watson era.
I hope Deshaun comes back and just blows the Texans out.
Yeah, I mean that's unfortunately kind of where the season's going to be, lining up to is making sure that they can get this offense rolling with him, keep him healthy. And I do wonder if and I don't trust me, this isn't an excuse, but probably a lot of guys on that football team that knew this season was probably going to be a wash anyway. It doesn't make it easier to go out there and play every single week. But it's got to be a little frustrating to go out there week in and week out. Like that's where I really think that's how devastating the Jets game certainly, but even the Falcons game, when it starts going bad, and you already know that you're down, you got to play near perfect because you don't have a quarterback. Like that's the most important position in sports. And you're going to get your franchise one coming in the door. And I hope, you see something better in these 7 games to kind of show a little bit of something, but understand that, a lot of these guys, this core should be here for the next 3 years. And I'm not saying guys took this season off, but was that what was happening? Guys were saying, "Hey, I know I'm going to be here. I'm signed. Like I'm going to be a part of this team moving forward." Not an excuse, but to a point, I understand. Now the problem when you do that, you always cost somebody a job. Yeah. It's a coach, it's a player, it's a teammate, it's something. You always cost somebody a job doing that. So we'll see, and that's going to be the job of Kevin Stefanski, right? Is getting through these 6 games and 6 games specifically with Watson to just really prove to the ownership and to the fans like, hey, I can handle this. We can have the offense that we've always dreamed of, that we've built up, specifically. But the biggest question will continue to remain, as we've talked about here, is the defense. And what are they going to do to fix that?
Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you think of the photo of Myles Garrett sitting by himself on the?
Yes, I saw that. No, I mean, I think, if anything, it's like he's a captain. He's your best player. He should be a leader on the defense. So, for him to sit there and kind of take it in, it's like it's to a point where it shows that it's still getting to him. People from time to time can, they won on Halloween. I get it, but I could read into how his costume or put in the quarterback's names on the thing. I get it. He backs his play up though, so whatever. Yeah. But when you see something like that, you realize that I think that guy's still giving it all. I know some don't necessarily or think he's overrated or something like that. I don't believe it. I think he's out there playing as hard as he can. But eventually, this stuff kind of wears on you, right? And The question is, can he motivate the rest of his guys to get on his level? The rest of the guys to sit there and go, what the hell just happened? Or why did we let this happen again? And find the solutions to fix it.
I agree.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people are going to look way far into that picture, and I've already seen people on Twitter saying, "Oh, it's only a moment of time before he requests a trade."
Yeah,
and et cetera. I know people are going to look far into it the more they should be, but still, it was kind of tough to see that though. But hopefully, it lights a fire.
Yeah, and I also just I really just kind of go to it to say, I think if anything, it showed that it's still bothers him to lose, because the worst thing you want to be is somebody that accepts losing or is apathetic towards it. You know what I mean? Right. So to see that, for him to sit there and go, no, this still bothers me. This doesn't sit right with me. It's still there, which I think is a good thing. Now it's him getting it to the rest of the team, right? Or him getting it to the rest of the guys to kind of buy into that.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yes. We got a little bit more time with Matt. We don't want to keep you too long. But we're gonna jump off of today's debacle, or whatever we're calling today.
Sure.
Another loss, whatever it is. We got some questions because, as we mentioned up top, you are co-host of not only ESPN Cleveland Tonight, but you also do a podcast with Tony Grossi. Now, I remember from even before I lived in Cleveland, driving up here from Springfield, Ohio with my parents, getting the Plain Dealer, reading Grossi. You're with a man who's seen it all, the general of the 100 Years' War. He comes from an era when the reporters roll on the plane with the team and that kind of thing. What? Beyond stories, just being around him, what kind of is that like?
I think that the craziest thing for me was, I was kind of like you, Clarence, that you mentioned, I knew Tony Grossi from the Plain Dealer, growing up, he was pretty much the preeminent, Browns guy. And I'll never forget the day, because I was at ESPN Cleveland already part-time. And then somebody told me dude, we're hiring Tony Grossi. I was like, wait a minute, really? Oh my God. So it's almost one of those things where you meet somebody that you've heard of your whole life, right? Or that, especially growing up in Cleveland or following certain teams, to meet Jim Donovan or to, shake hands. So when, again, being a Cleveland kid, when Wayne Dawson followed me on Twitter, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, holy cow, Wayne Dawson, Channel 8, that Wayne Dawson, holy cow, So Tony was a little bit interesting where at first that's was my reaction. Oh my God, this is Tony Grossi. Now 10 years later, I've been doing it so long with him. He's just Tony, some of my favorite stories of him are just on the golf course too. Cause he's so fun to be on the golf course with. He's a good golfer. He's a good old guy golfer. He's a good scramble. He just puts it out there. He's always got a cigar with him, which is always awesome. But yeah, I mean, working with him on the Brown side of it, I think the thing that impresses me the most, with Tony is, he's seen, before I was born. He started covering this team 3 years before I was born. So he's seen almost 40 years of team players, them leaving, them coming back. And I think that's the thing is when he can bring stuff up or he remembers this certain game in 1993 or something like that. He's just this encyclopedia of players. Or it's so impressive when we were doing a special series a while back about it was basically called Road to the Draft. And what we were doing is when the Browns had draft picks, Tony and I did a special show each week, getting ready for the draft, mock drafts, or what the latest news was. And I would always go back to a Browns draft of the past. And I go deep back too. And Tony would be right on. He'd be like, oh, I remember that guy. And I was like, Tony, it's an 8th round pick out of somewhere. And he'd be like, oh, no, I remember him, or say this and that kind of stuff. So the most impressive thing to me, with Tony has always been the encyclopedia, just all the stuff. And, you mentioned nothing he's never seen. There's nothing, almost nothing's new to him, right? He's seen it all before covering this game. So it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun to work with him.
Have you beat him on the golf course?
No, I've actually only ever played in scrambles with him before, okay. So I think we've played scrambles 4 times. Scrambles are always fun. There's so much fun. And like I said, Tony's always a good person to have on your team because he's usually pretty straight off the tee, so he'll put it out there for you. So he's fun. He's a lot of fun. I would say him, me, probably Riz, And then probably my co-host Danny. Like if I put together the ESPN Cleveland foursome team to like try to go win something, probably be me, Riz, Grossi, and Danny, my co-host. Chris Oldak can play. Oldak on RBS. He can play. He can shoot pretty good. Aaron can play all right. Unfortunately, I don't know. Gerard and Emmett don't. I've golfed with Gerard. As great of an athlete as he is, he's got to work on his golf game a little bit. And Emmett doesn't play very much either. So I think it'll be the morning show and then the late show that I'll have to corner that there for Team ESPN Cleveland.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So I also see that you're a gamer.
I am.
Yeah. What are you playing now, man?
I usually just play COD. For now it's a little different now. My wife and I, we have our son's a year and a half old now, so it's like that has cut into my gaming time significantly over the years. But it's just part of growing up. But yeah, so it's like when I sit down, it's nice and it's bad. Where it's like I sit down, I just know I'm going to play COD pretty much. Yeah. But I'll mix in. I've got the PGA Tour game, which I'll mix in. An 18 hole here or there. I've got a couple racing games. It's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, you must play like 2K or Madden." I really haven't. I haven't bought Madden, and I haven't bought 2K in even longer. But I haven't bought Madden probably about 6 years now. So it's pretty much I just
same
sit
game
down
every year.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, COD, and then just because there's a new one almost every year, so I sit down, I grind it a little bit, and have some fun. So the new one just came out too, which is nice. So that'll keep my interest for a little while.
I got that the day it came out. I've been playing it pretty heavy. I like it so far.
Yeah, it's all right. I haven't dropped in a Warzone yet, so I've been on multiplayer a little bit. My buddies give me a bunch of crap because I used to do the camo challenges on all the guns, and I did that for the last 3. And this one, I told myself I wasn't going to do it because it was so much. So this is actually one that I think I'm going to actually be able to enjoy the actual game, not just doing these camo things all the time. So we'll see.
It's a little different to grind on it, but I enjoy it so far. But I'm in the same boat as you. I got a 4-month-old, so my playing time has been cut down drastically.
Right, like you enjoy. I say that I enjoy sitting down for the quick, hour from time to time that I can play. Right. So you enjoy, and it's kind of good to sit down and be able to jump right into a game and not, just know what you need to do or know where you're at, stuff like that.
Exactly.
My boy is 6, and I've slowly got him onto the Madden train now. So I put
Madden's right, yeah,
put it on rookie mode for him, and he, you know what? Every time I look up, he's only using one button. He's hitting A every time, but he's completing passes and scoring touchdowns. So
all that matters.
Oh,
I also see you're a big fan of Batman too, man.
Yeah,
I am. Yeah. So I do have all the Batman games. I keep telling myself I'm going to restart them one day, but big Batman guy. It's we talk about it on my show every time. Whether it's gaming or I think everybody should have something that they nerd out about. There should be something in your life that you just love. Whether it can be a sports team, it can be. But, video games are just something that, you just really enjoy, working on a car or something like that, whatever it is, So for me, I love it. And it's fun because, now as I've gotten older, to have more time to be able to, read more comics or, sit down and watch more of the movies or anything like that. So, yeah, definitely a big Batman fan. It was, it's just something I started when I was a kid, and I always say nerds don't grow up. We just get more money to spend on it. So now it's like I bought more comics. I bought more. Like I have artwork in my basement now. Around me. So it's like,
right there with
cool
you, man.
Kind
Especially
of thing,
if I go out and I see like a Funko of Batman too, I'll grab that up. I'm a big Batman guy as well. Grew up a Batman fan, so I was surprised to see that as well. Who's your favorite Batman, as far as actor wise in the live action movies? Who's the best to portray them?
Did we lose him?
Oh, do we freeze? Did we lose you there?
We may have lost Matt.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, you guys lost me on that one.
You're good.
Oh, yeah, I'm back.
Out of all the live action Batmans, who's your favorite?
Good question on the live action one because Kevin Conroy would have been my answer, but live action, probably Keaton, and I don't think you can really beat him. I liked Christian Bale. I thought he was fine. Actually, I did like Ben Affleck. I thought he did okay. For that, I'm excited for Pattinson. Adam West, of course, was the GOAT.
Pattinson
But
did fairly well. I'm very surprised how well he
yeah,
did, and I hope
I
he
really
returns.
liked it. Yeah, and I think they'll definitely build that kind of little thing that they want to do there with Reeves and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, and especially like now that I have gotten older and read more to read the or more of like where they're taking some of these storylines from and all that kind of stuff is really cool. So I really liked what they did with it, but Batman '89 was another big reason I was a giant fan. So I definitely got to go Keaton on that one.
Oh yeah.
I follow right behind you because that's that's me as a kid, and
Yeah.
I grew up with the Adam West Batman a little bit
Oh
here
sure.
and there. But,
Yeah.
they finally put out a full motion picture movie, and it's Michael Keaton, and I'm like, I know who he is, and I was like, man, he's gonna play Batman, and he absolutely killed it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
absolutely killed it. It's still one of if it's on today, I will still sit and watch it for a little while
Oh,
every time.
absolutely.
Oh,
Actually,
it's the
George
best.
Clooney's probably my least favorite.
Yeah, I mean I almost don't count that one. Like
Yeah, that was like
borderline didn't count, but yeah, that was an interesting one for sure.
I agree.
Oh,
Man, I
well,
appreciate you coming on today, man.
yes.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Happy to do it early on.
Matt, thank you so much. Is there any plugs you want to get in before
No,
we
I
get out?
appreciate you guys having me on. We'll have to do it again after a win. How about that? All right. So I'm going to hold you to that. I got to come back on again, and it's got to be after a victory. So whenever they get one, we'll put it on the Browns, but we'll definitely do it again.
Sounds good,
Beautiful.
man. Can't wait.
Beautiful.
No problem.
Dean, you got anything else for the people?
That's it, man. Just stay positive. We'll figure it out. We're gonna get there one day, man.
Yeah. And
Be good to each other.
yep, and you know me. You know
Want to
me.
send the people off?
You know me. In the words of the immortal Freddie Kitchens. You don't wear brown and orange, you don't matter.
Oof.
Peace, y'all.
Bye, y'all.